So, I was writing a script for an Overwatch video I was going to make on the new event, Storm Rising. No, it would be one of my little comedy videos where I started yelling a lot. And while thinking of the script, my mind started to wander. I started to not think about the Storm Rising event, but why no one was talking about the Storm Rising event. I started to think about why no one was talking about Overwatch in general. Because for the most part of a year now, Overwatch's reputation has gotten a lot worse than just a dead game that no one plays anymore. That happens to every game. But Overwatch is now generally looked at as a toxic game with a toxic community, and even in some cases, a bad game. And I was around at the peak of Overwatch's popularity, so it just really started to wander on my mind about how a game that won Game of the Year for 2016 had got into such a bad place. I'm not going to talk about the problems specifically right now. I'm going to talk about how its reputation and its community have gotten to such a negative status and what may have caused it. Originally, I didn't think Overwatch had any kind of problem. I looked at the people who complained as sweaty one-hero mains who couldn't adjust to the new metas. And around the time that I was deep into Overwatch, I wasn't exactly wrong with making that statement. If you looked at any kind of Overwatch rant video that said that it was turning into a bad game, it was mostly just 10-minute drawn-out videos explaining that the person was bored or didn't like the new hero. I started playing Overwatch around September or October of 2016 and consistently stayed with the game until a little bit before Gecko Moria came out, and throughout those like 1 or 2 years I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Like a lot. I played hours and hours a day, and I mostly played for fun. I was not a competitive player. Like, I tried competitive every season, like I spent hours on it, but I never really moved up the rank. And, you know, I don't think I'm ass at the game, but I'm certainly not as concentrated as most pros are. Because, while I didn't really have any friends, that sounded bad, I didn't have friends who played Overwatch like I did, or at least not 5 other people who did. So, going into competitive for me was just kind of like rolling a dice. And I did not like the idea of that. Honestly, regardless of skill, no matter how good you are at the game, you still need your other teammates to pull through. And if you got a good team that communicates with you, you have a good plan of defense or attack, and all of them are, you know, decently skilled, and I'm going to come back to that skilled part, it's really important, then you would probably win, and, you know, the best team won. That's just how games work. Anyways, it didn't really affect me. I played the game for fun, and I enjoyed it until, you know, eventually I got bored of it. I moved on. I don't play games forever. I am a game connoisseur. I don't find one game and stay on it forever. I have got a whole library of games I need to play. I may get attached to it, play it for a few hundred hours, but never hooked. I'm basically a fuckboy for games. The most time I've ever spent on one game is Grand Theft Auto Online. Through multiple systems, over half a decade, for a combined 35 hours, which is less than 1,000 hours, which is what most basic Overwatch competitive players play. And that actually brings me to one of my main points. At its peak, Overwatch was full of players like me, or casuals, and I don't mean that in a bad sense. I mean it in the sense that these are people who played for fun and were not super focused on playing the game. And I remember like going to school and going places and everyone would be talking about the new Halloween event or the new character that just came out. But eventually, just like every other game, the popularity fades and people move on to other things. And I feel like this is where not the problems began, but the problems were starting to really get exposed. See, remember how I was talking about like those sweaty people who just kept complaining that they were getting bored? Some of them weren't exactly wrong. See, here's the thing, when you play as much as these competitive players do, you see the absolute best parts of the game. You see the gold really hiding underneath the game. But the same goes the opposite way. You also see the absolute worst the game has to offer at times. You know the ins and outs of the game. And when you make a silly little mistake or screw up over something, it's infuriating. You should be better after all the time you just spent. But trust me, it is 10 times that annoyance when you know that's the game's fault. See, I've gotten back into Overwatch recently just to do some research for this video. Played a couple of competitive matches, talked to some of my friends who play the game more often, looked at some of the rant videos from the competitive players talking about the problem. And everywhere I seem to go, there seems to be this common problem that everyone can agree on. There's this problem of hard counter with characters. And if you don't know what that is, let me try to explain it real quick. Let's say there's a situation. You got a enemy Pharah on like the opposite team, and she's really giving the team trouble because, you know, they're good. But basically, to counteract this or to try to offer some kind of defense against this really good play, someone could go Soldier or Widowmaker, Hanzo or McCree, someone with like very accurate aiming. That would be an example of a counter, but even though it would be a good play, it is not exactly necessary, or like it never feels entirely required. If the player is skilled enough, they could use a Diva or Roadhog, even a Mercy to take down the Pharah if they have good enough aim. But with the situation of hard counters, the characters become so powerful that countering them in some capacity with a certain character is almost required to win. And not just is it required to win, if you don't use it, you are most likely going to have a very unfun game. Not just from the fact that you're losing, but from the presence of this one character that is just ruining everything for the other team. And yeah, I guess it's good at winning, but that's not the type of game people want Overwatch to be. It's not the type of game it was. It's not like the people complaining about this are hating on it either. Like, if you look at one of these rant videos, they don't sound angry or pissed. They just sound like disappointed and sad. Like, from the way these people are talking, you would have swore someone just died. And you wouldn't exactly be wrong either. If you type in Overwatch on Google, one of the first 3 words that'll come along with it is dying. The other one are animated shorts and porn. People really seem to enjoy watching Overwatch more than they do actually playing it. So yeah, just to summarize, the hype around Overwatch has died down, and it's really allowed people to focus on the flaws that the game had and how much more flawed it has become. So yeah, that's basically my video. Like and subscribe to watch Endgame.